Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us at our event with Alfred Gratien. We are joined by Olivier Dupré, Nicolas Chager and Frederic from Alfred Gratien, and our buyer for champagne, Sarah Knowles, MW. At the moment, we do have you all on mute, just to avoid any background noise. So we'll keep it like that throughout the presentation and the speaking. If you want to view us in gallery view, you can do, which is where you will see every speaker in a selection, or you can also view it as speaker view. If you are using a phone and you want to view in speaker view, if you swipe right on the screen, that will convert it for you. Now you will see at the bottom of the screen on your computer or as another icon on a phone screen, a Q&A function. Please do use that. We are hoping to get as many questions answered as we can a bit later on. If you would like to chat to each other and tell us what you're drinking, please do use the chat function. I can see some people have already started that. If you would like to make sure that your conversation can be seen by your fellow attendees, select all panelists and attendees. That way you can all see what you're drinking and talking about and everyone can join in. If you are on the phone and you're finding the chat function a little bit too irritating, if it pops up, you can disable it by clicking the three dots next to the chat, and then there will be a bell symbol. If you select that, and you can then disable your notifications so you can just enjoy the presentation. A bit later on, you may have the opportunity to ask some questions personally. When we will get to that point, we will be unmuting you and inviting you to ask your question. So don't worry, you'll see in advance, and it will just mean that we won't have everyone chatting at once. We can all hear all the questions and answers. Now, I think we're all ready, so all that's left for me to do is hope you all have a glass ready to enjoy and invite Sarah to introduce the others.
Thank you, Catherine. Good evening, everybody. I am delighted that we've managed to touch so many.
Have a glass ready to enjoy and invite Sarah to introduce the others.
Oh, hopefully you're still hearing me. I just got a little bit of secondary information from Catherine. But I'm saying before, I'm delighted that you're joining us rather than sitting outside in the beautiful weather we have tonight. I'm actually taking lockdown from my top floor apartment, so I can't go outside. So I'm delighted to be with you all tonight with Olivier Dupré and Nicolas Chager, who are going to take us through what makes Alfred Gratien so special. But before we start, I have an exciting piece of news for all of you. Some of you may already have seen, but we currently have an en primeur offer at the moment. The 2012 Alfred Gratien champagne is currently available for members, and we have a wonderful sneak preview video. The sound is a little bit quiet, but Anna, if you wouldn't mind playing that for us. Here is Nicolas in action. So here he's looking at the sediment at the bottom of the bottle, the 2012. He's picked up a sword, that's right, and he has sabouraged the bottle. A great way to open a fantastic vintage wine. I do hope that you'll try that with your bottles that you will order, hopefully after this masterclass, when they arrive in a year or so's time. Cheers, Nicolas. Looks great. Thank you, Anna. So without further ado, we've been working with Alfred Gratien since 1906. It is our oldest supplier relationship at the Wine Society, and we're extremely proud to work with such a high quality champagne house for our own label champagne. I do hope you have a glass. I definitely do. Any excuse for champagne on a Tuesday. So I will say nothing more but to introduce Olivier Dupré to tell us a little bit about the wine. Cheers. Olivier.
Thank you, Sarah. And I will, first of all, I I want to thank you for taking some time to listen to the story of Alfred Gratien. We are a small winery. We only produce 300,000 bottles a year. And when you are that small, my market share is 0.1%. You need to be different. And we are different in many ways. And the purpose of the presentation together with Nicolas will be to tell you how different we are. Maybe a few words about me. I'm working in the wine industry for more than 30 years. I joined this lovely company 18 years ago. And the company was created in 1864 by Mr. Alfred Gratien, a man from the Loire Valley. And the same year, he created two champagne houses. At that time, they were both called Champagne. Champagne from Saumur, in Saumur, and Champagne of Epernay, of course, in Epernay. He passed away when he was very young, and his widow sold the company to Mr. Meyer. This is why in Saumur, we have the name Gratien Meyer. And as a memory to the founder, he kept the name Alfred Gratien for Champagne. I said we are small, and the first difference is most people forget that Champagne is wine. And to make good wines, you need good grapes. And in the Champagne, you have several classifications of grapes. You have the Grand Cru, you have the Premier Cru. These two represent approximately 25% of the total. At Alfred Gratien, we purchase the grapes from growers around Epernay in Premier Cru and in Grand Cru, Montagne de Reims, Vallée de la Marne, and Côte des Blancs. And 62% of the grapes come from Grand Cru. It's a kind of war to have this Grand Cru, because all big champagne houses, they want also to have this. And for this, we have two very important things that we do. The first one is that we do the fermentation. Second slide, please. We do the fermentation of every single batch of wine in barrels. No new, maybe the next one, sorry, yes. No new oak, Nicolas will tell you why. But we are the last company together with Krug to use this technology. This barrel fermentation is a very, very important thing. It's important for the quality of the grapes, but it's also very important for the sourcing of the grapes. Why? Because growers are farmers, and farmers are proud of what they produce. And at Alfred Gratien, because we have these 1,000 barrels, we are able to make the fermentation of every single batch of grapes independently. And we mark the name of the growers and the village on each single barrel. So when the wines are ready in January, we can have all the growers coming to the winery, the 65 of them, they are coming, and they can try and taste the result of their work. And this is a relationship tool, and it's also a quality tool, because when they taste their grapes, they cannot supply us with bad grapes. And there are no bad grapes in Grand Cru and Premier Cru, I can swear you. And the rest is wonderful as well. We do only for Alfred, any wines that carries the name Alfred Gratien is 100% first pressing. Second pressing is never used at Alfred Gratien. So we keep the very, very, very best juice. We press them very smoothly, and we make the fermentation in barrel. Barrels allow the wine to breathe during the first fermentation. And this breathing is keeping the quality, is keeping the fruitiness, the acidity of the wine and the balance of the wine, and brings a lot of body without bringing heaviness. So this is very important. No new barrels, because you will never taste the woodiness in an Alfred Gratien bottle. You will, as I said, the aim is to have the wine breathing. So therefore, we buy the barrels from Chablis after 5 wines from La Chablisienne. We have very good relationship with them, and we keep then the barrels up to 25 years. Now I come to something very special at Alfred Gratien, which is, I told you that we have very good grapes that we press smoothly, that we age in barrels. And for this, the barrel fermentation, this is a skill that has disappeared in Champagne. 100 years ago, or when the story of Champagne started, everybody was using barrels. Nowadays, only Krug and Alfred Gratien are doing 100% as a brand. Bollinger is doing it, but only for the vintage. And for this, we have a unique expertise. We have the Gégère family. We have the Gégère family, and we are very proud to have them for fourth generation working at the company. Gaston started in 1905. Charles worked 40 years with his father before the father was able to take over. Jean-Pierre worked 17 years with his father. Nicolas worked as well 17 years with his father. So very important, because this knowledge, we have it in the DNA of the company. And now I will pass over to Nicolas, because he's the most important person of the company. He's the winemaker, the fourth generation. And Nicolas, I leave it to you now. Thank you.
All work? Yes. Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Olivier Dupré. I'm very happy to speak with you. Olivier, I'm in the Chais. The Chais is the heart of our company. The Chais is very, very important for me because it's where I was born, maybe. I started with my father in 1990, and he taught me 17 years. And after 17 years, I'm very, very lucky boy, because I have 2 very good years in since 2007, because I'm happy to make the 08 vintage and the 012 vintage. This is very, very, very special vintage. You understand, we work in oak for all fermentation and vinification, and we decide a blend after the testing. For Alfred Gratien, it's not every year the same blend. Only after the testing, we decide the blend. And after the testing, I think the testing make the blend and not the blend make the testing. This is very, very important. After the wine stays 6 months in the barrel, in this 6 months, we do alcoholic fermentation. We wait aging for the wine go very clear. And we use never new oak, because I think a good champagne is bubbles, very fine bubbles. Good champagne is bubbles with elegance, but good champagne too is wine. And wine, if you feel only the oak flavor in your wine, I think is not interesting. To protect the wine, I have few solutions. The first one, we never use the new oak. The aging, the yield of our oak is around 15 years. And we stay on the sediment for a very long time. We stay 6 months on the sediment, because during the vinification in oak, the sediment preserve the wine for oaky flavor. And for this reason, when you test Champagne Alfred Gratien, you can feel you have some maturity, you have some power, you have some elegance, very, very, always very fine bubbles if you buy a vintage, but of course, if you buy the Brut Cuvée 33, your wine, the Wine Society champagne. But this is very important for me to make very high quality in the wine, but if you feel only oak flavor, it's not interesting. After the wine go in the cave, in the bottle, of course, and go in the cave for many years. We put the wine in the bottles, the 012, we put the wine in a bottle in 13. And we decide to close the bottle. You can see a small bottles here on the picture, but you can feel the bottle. I can show you the bottle. We have 2 solutions. When we put the wine in the bottles, we can use the crown caps to close the bottle. We use this for the Brut Classic, for your classic wine, for the Cuvée 33, the Wine Society. But for Alfred Gratien vintage, we use a staple and cork. And why we use this? Of course, it's a long process. It's harder to use cork, it's easier to use caps. But really, the wine is very important, because you preserve the wine for the oxidation in the bottle. Because if you look at a cork, you can see a lot of small cavity, and this cavity caps the oxygen before the oxygen go in the bottle, and we can keep the bottle longer. This is very, very important, because when you buy a bottle of Alfred Gratien, Of course, it's very nice to drink immediately, but if we have no time, or if you are a collector, or if you are a wine lover, I think all the Wine Society members are the wine lover. You can drink champagne immediately when we sell the bottles, but of course, it's nice to keep for a long time. Regularly with my father, a vintage for the Wine Society, example 1969. My grandfather do 1969 only for the Wine Society with 100% Chardonnay. And when we test this wine now is really incredible. Very, very, very good. You can feel this is wine from Champagne. And this is one reason why we are different. This is very, very, very important. This is my art and this is my wine. Olivier, maybe you want to say something?
You are doing it perfectly, Nicolas.
Okay, I speak, you understand Mr. Dupré speak better in English than me, but I try to do my best. This is very important. You can see the oak behind me. We have 900 barrels behind me, around me, and this is the art of Alfred Gratien. We are very special because we use oak. Some people now change for tanks, but come back to the oak for a special cuvée. Alfred Gratien is 100% in oak, 100% N make, and to preserve the wine for a long time. I explained to you the coke for the vintage, but you must imagine we don't do malolactic fermentation. In Champagne, the malolactic fermentation changes the acid malic in acid lactic. Acid malic is milk, is apple acid, malolactic, and lactic is milk acid. You lose acidity, but acidity is something to preserve the wine. Acidity is antioxidant. I think 95% house of Champagne do malolactic fermentation. This is one reason more why we are different. We never do malolactic fermentation. And if you never do malolactic fermentation, you have more acidity in your wine, but we keep longer the wine in our cellar. And we have tannin in the wine because we use wood, and tannin is antioxidant too. For this reason, the wine or the champagne from Alfred Gratien, you can keep long time. But one thing for me, I drink every day, and I'm very fine. I'm very healthy. I think it's good. I do my grandfather's solution. I think that's work. If you have some question, Sarah, maybe for you.
Hi, Nicolas. Yes, thank you for the introduction. Cheers.
Excuse me, this is vintage. This is not 12, this is 07.
You're drinking the 07. It's delicious.
Yes.
We've, I think, just started shipping it.
Yes.
I tasted it with you in January, so that's fantastic. I'm drinking the non-vintage, the Society's wine, which I believe is on the 2015 base at the moment. So beautiful. So Nicolas, I have a few questions just before we start with members. You mentioned that the Wine Society's Champagne, the non-vintage, has 4 years as a minimum aging requirement in your cellars. What would be typical in Champagne for aging non-vintage wines?
For the no-vintage, normally legislation is 15 months after we put the wine in the bottles, after the second fermentation. For Alfred Gratien, it's minimum 4 years. One reason, but regularly we can fill the house in Champagne, sell the Brut Classique after 2 years. Here we keep longer for the reason I said, because we don't do malolactic fermentation. If we sold the wine after 15 months, it's not ready to drink, it's too young. We must wait in our cellar to have the maximum quality for you.
Yeah, no, that's a significantly longer period to age the wine, and you can definitely tell, I think, in the intensity of the sort of savory character that comes through on the non-vintage. Now,
we have more, excuse me, Sarah, for give you an idea for your member, under me, we have a cellar, 1 kilometer cellar under me to keep and preserve the wine after the second fermentation. and we have more 5 years in stock. This is very, very important in Champagne because the yield in Champagne is 2.5 years in stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think you can get lost in your cellars. They're so large. Did you say how many bottles you're holding in the cellar?
More 1.5 million.
Oof. Yeah. A good place to spend lockdown.
To sell 300,000.
Ah.
This is a large stock because stock is really expensive in Champagne, but this is the solution for the high quality.
Absolutely. Great. Now, I think we have a few questions from members. I believe that Anna and Catherine may be able to unmute some of our members. So I think we're starting with Susan McNaught. Susan, are you with us?
Yes. No, I don't understand, I think, Sarah. Maybe Olivier can help me.
It's okay. Let me see. Catherine,
Susan is here.
Anna?
Susan is here.
Susan is here.
I am here.
Susan.
Please ask your question, Susan.
I just wanted to know how the champagne industry has been affected by the fact that there will be so much less champagne drunk at the moment because of the lack of celebrations that normally would consume vast quantities of champagne. So I wondered how that's going to affect the industry.
Yes. I think, Olivier, would you like to take this one?
Yes. It is very true that when with the lockdown, everybody was staying home. We were not allowed to gather more than 2 or 3 people, so there was no celebration, there was nothing. And in France, the market was heavily affected by this. The champagne sales went down by more than 70%. The lockdown is over since May 11th, and we have the data of the first week of the sales of champagne, and the sales of champagne in the first weeks are back to normal levels. So people rush to the shops to buy some champagne to celebrate the end of the lockdown. So of course there will be a lot of every single bottle that has not been drunk during the lockdown will never get back. But we hope that now we are back in normal.
Yes, and I have to agree with Olivier there. I think we're finding already that we've had a little less champagne sold over the last few months, but we're very lucky that the En Primeur offer that is currently live for 2012 is selling very well. So perhaps we're not drinking quite as much at parties at the moment, but we are planning for those parties in the next few years. So I do hope that that's the case. But I think we have another question now from Carolyn, and I think Anna and Catherine are going to see if they can unmute Carolyn.
Yes, I believe that you always use the 3 main varieties of grape for your champagne, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. But does the balance of the 3 different grapes change from vintage to vintage?
Yes, so Nicola, would you be happy to answer that a little bit about how the balance of the 3 different vintage grapes can change?
The particularity of Alfred Gratien, we have a good sourcing in the Chardonnay grapes. And we use a lot of Chardonnay grapes because Chardonnay grapes is very fine and very delicate. You can make something very with elegance. After the Pinot Noir give the body, we use the Pinot Noir from the Montagne de Reims a lot and from Cumières and east of the Montagne de Reims because we keep with this elegance. We don't try to find a Pinot Noir with too much body. And the Pinot Meunier give a lot of fruit. Pinot Meunier, some person somehow sometimes forget to speak about the Pinot Meunier, but I am a Pinot Meunier lover too, because Pinot Meunier, if you respect the grapes, if you don't do malolactic fermentation, if you make fermentation with a small temperature, you have a beautiful fruit in the Pinot Meunier, and I love this. And for me, it's very important to balance the 3 grapes, to have something, excuse me my English, but something drinkable. I want when you drink the first glass is very important for me if you want immediately the second. If you think after the first one you are tired, you want something to change more fresh, it's not interesting for me. But with the blend and with no malolactic fermentation, with Alfred Gratien style, it's very easy to drink a bottle with 1 or 2 persons. My grandfather said a magnum is good for 2 if your friend don't drink.
I can agree with that, Nicolas. So I think we now have a question from Neil, if is available to ask.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah, my question is, if you're using a champagne stopper, having opened a bottle of champagne, how long will the champagne stay in drinkable condition?
Depend the level in your bottles. This is very important. If you see me, if the level is here, for me it's too late. But if you are in the middle, in good condition, 1-2 days, I think is not a problem. But your stopper must be very high quality. A spooner here do nothing. If you use a stopper with high quality and you have half bottles, I think you can keep in good condition 2 days is possible.
I agree with Nicolas there. I also find, interestingly, with Alfred Gratien, if anything is left, even a few days later, when the bubbles have dissipated a little bit, the wine is still brilliant. And I think that often sets Alfred Gratien apart, because the wine without the bubbles is even quite interesting. So it's not despair if there's only a little bit left and you get to drink it the next day.
But I'm okay with you, and I think for it's the same in your glass. I like to drink the wine fresh. Maybe the service is around, say, 7 or 8 degrees, but I wait in my glass because you have the first taste. You can feel your fresh. You refreshing your mouth, and after you can look the evolution of the wine in your glass, and you have all different palate. You start with something nice aroma with free confit. You can have chocolate, you can have vanilla in the wine, a lot of different aromas. And if you drink too fast, you lose something. But you can, if you have a good wine, the good solution to know if it's a good wine, wait a few minutes in your glass.
Yes. Well, as a buyer, we usually taste wine at room temperature for precisely that, because both chilling a wine and bubbles in a wine can sometimes hide faults. So if you have a warm wine that you've allowed to go flat and it's still good, then it's a really good wine. Hey-ho, I wouldn't recommend that to everybody. Do enjoy your champagne cold and with bubbles, but if you find half a bottle the next day, it's not, don't pour it down the sink. Now we have a question, I believe, from Spike. I wonder if we can unmute Spike.
Hello.
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 Hi. If you never introduce, if you never put your wine in new oak, how do you introduce new barrels, or are you just using the same 900 barrels over and over and over again ad infinitum?
We buy borrow second hand, a lot of second hand. But the sourcing of the Bordeaux is in Chablis. We work a lot with La Chablisienne, and the Bordeaux is perfect because you give some wood flavor, but not too much, and is really perfect for what we want.
We replace the barrels. We replace 5% of the barrels every year. So approximately between 50 and 70 barrels we replace every year with barrels from Chablis that have 5 years, and we keep them 25 years.
Great. And I think we now have a question from Chris. Chris, are you able to ask your question?
Yes, I was wondering how you went about deciding whether to declare a vintage, and how long after the harvest you will make that declaration and that decision.
J'ai besoin d'un petit peu d'aide, Olivier.
the question is, if you come to the place, if you come to like Sarah is doing every year, it's very easy to decide. Because we test the wine in January, February. If the wine is good, we make a vintage. If the wine is not so good, we don't make a vintage. And the very interesting thing is by not doing a vintage, is that usually you take your best wine to do the vintage. If you don't do a vintage, you keep your best wine for your Brut Classic. So you are able to maintain a very high quality for your Brut Classic.
And one thing very interesting, if we speak about 2019 vintage, it will go very, very good. You tested, Sarah, and I can make a very good vintage, a very, very nice cuvée paradis. And wait, this is the vintage for my retire.
As Nicolas and Olivier just said, it's actually it's amazing how early you can tell a good vintage. So I taste every year with Nicolas in January or February from barrel in the room directly behind Nicolas at the moment. And we taste each barrel and we can see the quality of the wines in each grape variety. And it was amazing because I started tasting in 2017, which was quite a tricky vintage. And then I came and I thought this is going to be quite tough as a buying job each year. But I came back in 2018 and we tasted the vintage and we were really pleased with it. It was a lovely, generous vintage and the barrel room was entirely full. It was a big vintage too. And then 2019, I came back this year. It was the only buying trip I managed to do before lockdown. But the wines looked stunning. So it's really interesting to be able to see what might be a good vintage and what might be an excellent vintage. I think 2008, 2012, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if all goes well, 2019 are really exciting years for Alfred Gratien and for Champagne more generally. So hopefully we'll see. I
wait 15.
So
15, I think.
That's the knowledge of somebody trying all the bottles every month in the cellar. I look forward to tasting it when I'm next with you, Nicolas. So then I think we have a question. I think we have another question from Hannah Allgate.
Hi, yes, my question is in relation to the yeast that you use. I wondered if you use any particular yeasts and if there's any difference for what you use for Pinot Noir compared to Chardonnay and why.
Now we use yeast, we select the yeast. And you know, some people in Champagne prefer to work with natural yeast. But Alfred Gratien, we work with select yeast. Why? Because the select yeast is the best natural yeast. And I want to make something very good, very fresh. With select yeast, you have, you know exactly where you go. With natural yeast, sometimes you can have some reduction in the wine, some aroma you don't want. And for this reason, we try to do the best all the time. And we control the fermentation. And if you want to have a good control, yeast is very important too. This is our solution.
Yeah. No, brilliant. And then I think we have a question from Nick. If we can ask Nick to ask his question.
Yes, hello.
Fantastic, hello. Yes.
Yes, I was wondering what effect climate change might be having for better or worse in Champagne, and particularly with Alfred Gratien.
We don't infect now because here we don't do malolactic fermentation, and we arrive to keep some fresh wine, but we can feel the harvest is early every year. To give you an idea now, in the vineyard, I was in my vineyard yesterday, and in the vineyard we are in flowers now, and normally we count 100 days after the flowers and we do the harvest. For a few years we count 85, 90 days, and the harvest go early every year and every year. And if I count 85 days this year, we can feel the harvest 17, 20 in August, is really early. Normally is in September. But we are in fact about that. But we have more maturity in the grapes, more sugar. We use less chaptalization, if you know, less cane sugar, but we preserve the fresh wine because we don't do malolactic fermentation. I think is important now.
To answer your question more precisely, is you were asking how the global warming is affecting the quality of the grapes in Champagne. I must say we are very happy with the global warming, because if you were compared to the 50s or the 60s, you had a good vintage maybe once or twice a decade. If I take since 2000, when I joined the company, we only had 2 or 3 bad vintage, or not bad vintage, but not as good vintage. And most of the quality is impressive. Even in special year like 17 or like 16 as well, we have been able to have very, very nice harvest. And we have incredible vintage. Exceptional vintage every 4 or 6 years is something that never happened in the history of Champagne before. Of course, we expect that the global warming will not go too far, so that we can still do Champagne and do not need to end it all over to south of England. But actually, we are very happy with it.
Oh, wonderful. And I think if that answers the question, we have another question from Toby. Toby, if you're able to unmute, you can ask your question.
Good afternoon. A larger bottle is obviously better than a smaller bottle, but the half bottles of the Wine Society Alfred Gratien private cuvée is excellent. It's very practical as a half bottle. But my question is, do the half bottles age quicker? And is there any difference in taste? Thank you.
Yes, the half bottles go aging quicker. If you look at the neck of the bottle is exactly the same millimeters here for half bottles, bottle, and magnum. And in a magnum, you have double wine a bottle with the same proportion of air. Same in a half bottle. You have more air in contact with the wine, and the wine go aging quicker. For give you an idea, the Wine Society half bottles is 2015, but the bottles you have in the Brie Classic is 14. Regularly, we have 1 year difference with half bottles on bottles to preserve the same quality, or give you the same pleasure if you drink half bottle or if you drink a bottle. On the Magnum you have in the Wine Society, Magnum you have now in the Wine Society is 08 in Brie Classic. And I think it's a good idea.
I was going to say that, Nicolas. I think the half bottles are wonderful. I agree, Toby. I enjoy having a few of those in because it's often easier to justify opening a half bottle of champagne. But the real excitement in terms of bottle sizes for the Wine Society's current cuvée has to be the magnums, because it's we turn them over slightly more slowly than the 75 centiliter bottles. And so the wine is on an older base, and it's on the 2008 base, which was such a fantastic vintage. So a tip for today would be the magnums of Alfred Gratien, along, of course, with the Empereur 2012. Now, I believe we have Nigel with another question. If Nigel can be unmuted. Nigel, are you able to ask your question?
Hello, Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My question is quite a simple one. That was to ask an opinion as to how the 2012 vintage, as currently judged, compares with recent past vintages.
Great. Nicolas, are you happy to compare 2012?
I don't understand the question, excuse me, because I hear one word on the...
That's okay. So we're asking which vintages the 2012 might be compared to, or how does it differ to other vintages?
You can compare between 1996 and maybe 08, and maybe 08, because you have the possibility to preserve with the nice acidity like 1996, but you have elegance of 08, and I can compare in the middle of between 1996 and 08.
Mm-hmm. How long do you feel that 2012 will age for, Nicolas, out of interest?
For I think when I will go in retire, we can continue to drink very, very long. This is this is very good vintage. For give you an idea, last Christmas, no, 2 years ago for Christmas with my father, he opened a magnum of 1955 Alfred Gratien, come back from my grandfather library, Vinothèque, and this is spectacular. Alfred Gratien is wine from Champagne. This is very important to know. It's not only champagne with bubbles to make a party. You can do with, but you can have a lot of different possibility to drink on the table with foie gras, with a lot of things.
Yeah, I actually have suggested to many friends that they should, when they're having babies, they often ask me what they should buy and put in their cellar, perhaps some claret or some port. And I often now tell them that they should look at champagne vintages, because they can really hold their own. But we have another 2 questions, I believe, our last 2. One from Andrew. If Andrew could be unmuted, you might be able to ask your own question.
Yes, good afternoon. I noticed in the earlier video, Nicolas, that you were standing by some pupitres. I wonder whether Alfred Gratien still riddles the bottles by hand, or does it use a gyro palette? If you do riddle by hand, do you feel that adds anything to the wine?
No. If you turn your bottles by hand, or if you turn the bottle with a machine, it's just physics. When the bottles, we leave the bottles in the cave, we leave the bottles here with the sediment. We turn the bottles for the sediment go into the neck. Really, it's just physics experience, physical things. If I turn the bottles with my hand or my colleague or with a machine, we can make the same. Maybe it's better by hand, but I can feel when I make a blind test if I turn the bottles by hand or with a machine. Sure. Machine make very, very good work if you keep your time. But you can make a very bad work by hand. You can make a very bad work with a machine. It's just a philosophy how you want to work.
And to answer your question as well, you know how many bottles a riddler can riddle a day? It's about 60,000 bottles. So it's an 8-hour time. So it's a tough job. You don't need to go to the gym after this, I can swear. And it's very difficult to find workers that are still willing to do that.
Yeah. And then I believe we have our last question from Christos. If we can ask you to unmute.
Yes, Nicolas, hello.
Hello.
You mentioned that generally you favor Chardonnay grapes because it gives elegance to the blend. I wondered if there are any particular villages in the Côte de Blanc that you prefer, and have any of these growers, have you been working with them for generations? And then one other question about the growers. In the vineyard, do you have any control on what happens, or do you trust your growers completely?
2 things. The best Chardonnay is in the Côte de Blanc. If I speak with my heart, I can say Ménil-sur-Roger, because I am a owner. I have some vineyard in the Ménil-sur-Roger, but really Ménil-sur-Roger Avis, a mix of both is very, very interesting. And if you test the vintage Blanc de Blanc Alfred Gratien, you test the best 5 Grand Cru in the Côte de Blanc, and the mix of these 5 best are very, very, very interesting. My heart go in the Ménil-sur-Roger because my grandmother lived in the Ménil-sur-Roger, and because I drink regularly the Ménil-sur-Roger. But I think the Côte de Blanc, you have different possibility, and the wine are very, very, very nice. And the second question, I don't remember. I lost because in English for me is difficult.
It was for the growers that you buy your grapes from. Do you have any control what happens in the vineyard, or do you trust them completely?
Both. We trust and we have some control because trust because if you work with Alfred Gratien, is not a surprise if I say you are proud to work with Alfred Gratien, because we are a very traditional house, family house, and this is they don't show it's Alfred Gratien. Is not hasard. We can say hasard. I don't know. Hasard. I don't know. And second point, during the aging in the bottle, we invite the grower to taste their wine. And at this time, I can speak with us because we can have different grower from the Ménis Roger or different grower from Avis. And I can say to Mr. Dupont, yes, you cut your grapes early, but I think we lose some maturity. If we test your friend, you have more maturity, and we can balance what we want, but with philosophy. I don't like to say I want this, I want this. If we speak with philosophy, I prefer this. But a lot of Alfred Gratien growers are friends. This is very important. We have a business, of course, with us, but a lot of our friends or family sometimes.
Yes, I must add here, Nicolas is being very humble, but the quality of the wine relies on his personal relationship with all of the growers. And he knows the vineyards and their wines intimately, knowing all of their family and their, all of the different things. I think what surprises me most every time I visit Champagne is the relationship that the chef de cave has to have with all of the growers. So it's one that's very, very deep and long lasting, especially with the different generations who've worked as chef de cave within Nicolas's family at Alfred Gratien. We actually have a sneaky extra question. Oh, sorry, Nicolas, yes?
One thing more. Since 3-4 years, the Champagne region make a lot of work for preserve environment, for healthy planet, and with the grower make something very good for the planet. I can say like that, excuse my English, but we can sometimes we give 10 cents or 20 cents more for this because we can prove with us they make a very good work to preserve the planet.
Yeah, no, I think the difference in Champagne viticulture over the last 10 or 20 years has been much improved in terms of how it'll leave the planet going forward. It's actually time for one last question. I sort of jumped the gun, but we've had a lovely one in from Barry. I wonder if you're able to ask your question yourself.
Yes, hi Nicola.
Hi.
It's Barry Jones speaking. Two things. Firstly, I drank a bottle of 1996 on Sunday, and I can tell you it was delicious. And secondly, I remember your grandfather telling me when he was 91 years old that he had drunk a bottle of champagne every day of his adult life. I wanted to ask you, do you follow his advice?
Olivier, tu peux m'aider un tout petit peu?
I said, I remember your grandfather
yes,
telling me when he was 91 years old that he had drunk a bottle of champagne every day of his adult life.
Mr. And he is very healthy. My grandfather he drink a bottle a day, maybe sometime more, and he was dead in healthy in his bed. I want the same life. For me, it's good, but maybe Mr. Dupré can give more.
Nicolas' grandfather had a very good life. He was never sick, never seen a doctor, drank at least a bottle a day, went one day to bed and never woke up.
Yes, but he was in his 90s then, wasn't he?
Yes.
Sometimes when we saw the medicine, the doctor, excuse me, he said, you drink every day? Yes. 1 glass? Maybe a little bit more. 2 glass? Not more. 3 glass a day, sure. But it's very boring for me, a day without champagne.
I think from that comment, we can take it that Nicolas is following his grandfather's advice. But I would love to say a huge thank you to Nicolas Jager and Oliver Dupré for being here today. We are still getting used to our Zoom tasting events, but I do hope that as members, you've enjoyed listening in, getting all of this extra information from our longest standing supplier for the Wine Society. Do help yourself online to the 2012. The offer finishes at the end of next week. So you've got your last chance, but of course the non-vintage in many different size bottles is always available, along with a selection of different Alfred Gratien wines. So that all just leaves me to say thank you. Nicolas, yes?
I want to say one thing more. You know, we are open for the tour, and all the Wine Society's members are welcome. And Amanda or me, come to see us. You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Thank you.
As soon as we can travel again, I recommend that everybody go to Epernay to see Alfred Gratien's barrel cellar for yourselves. But thanks ever so much to Anna and Catherine for being behind the scenes here today. And I hope you've all got a glass. I need to top mine up. But cheers to everybody. And we'll see you at this next online tasting again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.